agency, and she was on KFNF. And okay, we're talking this afternoon with Eleanor Lawshe, who was a long-time Shenandoah resident back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and she had a travel agency, and she was on KFNF. And we want to ask you, Eleanor, how did you get on the air in the beginning?
Well, it was real easy because Mr. Williams, who was the manager at that time, and Mrs. Williams were wonderful people, really. I was the Welcome Wagon hostess for the city, and so I asked him if I could introduce each newcomer to Shenandoah on KFNF some morning. So I did it for just a little while, and then all of a sudden he wanted me to be on every day, but I had to go get my own sponsors. So I went around and talked to the businessmen in town and asked them if they would like to sponsor somebody who had had no experience whatsoever in broadcasting. And they all were wonderful and contributed, and I had nice sponsors. And through Welcome Wagons, how I got on KFNF.
Oh, so that was your first program?
That was my first program, and then I was on every day from 11:30 to 12.
And then you introduced the new people who came to town?
I introduced all the new people who came to town and started a newcomers club, and we met at the Elks Club once a month and had a wonderful time.
Yes. And then that led to other things?
Yes, it led to other things because I was on television almost 5 years, radio almost 5 years, with just guests. That every day I had a guest who had an interesting life or something interesting to say, and there were always people in the area that were probably pretty well known, or maybe complete strangers. It could be either one. And that lasted for quite a long while. And then my aunt came along, and she had been spending the winters in Hawaii. And she wanted me to go to Hawaii. Oh, I just had to go with her, that's all. So Mr. Williams let me go, take the tape recorder, and it weighed about 24 pounds, and it was about that big and heavy. But so that was my introduction to Hawaii. And after going for 2 or 3 or 4 years, I said to Mr. Williams, now look, so many people had written in saying, oh, could we go to Hawaii with you next time you go? So I talked Mr. Williams into having a KFNF tour. So that's what we did, and I took 25 people. Well, 25 people then was like 250 now, because so many people go to Hawaii. And we had a wonderful time. And we were looking at that group the other day to see how many of those people were still with us. Well, that's how I got in the travel business then. Then, after doing that for about, 2 or 3 years, I don't remember anymore at my age, after all, you know what they say, but I'm 80, but I'm over 80. So you see, if I don't remember, you'll understand. But anyway, when I got back from Hawaii, then out came the executives from United Airlines, and they wanted me to be a travel agent for them and go over often with groups. Well, I couldn't even read a timetable, so they taught me. And that's how I got into the travel business, through KFNF. And bless Mr. Williams, he let me talk about my tours for 2 years till I got so busy with the travel agency that I couldn't do both.
Did you call your program the Friendly Neighbor Program? Is that how you happen to name your travel agency?
I called it the Friendly Neighbor Program, yes. That I tease the people who are with United and tell them, that's how you got your idea for Friendly Skies. But it was a wonderful experience for me. Then, of course, you knew I had a teen talent show, too.
Yes, we'd like to hear about that.
Well, the teen talent show, I don't remember really exactly how that worked in. I guess I just had guests who were teens and talented on the daily program. And Mr. Williams thought I should then have a Saturday morning, every morning, Saturday morning. And so I started it, and I had the most marvelous sponsor that you could imagine, Robert's Dairy. They sponsored it for 3 years, and I had guests, teenage, preteen, and older, from all the schools in the area. And it was wonderful because the band director helped me send in people every week, and it was a contest. And the public had to choose the talent that they thought was best for that certain morning, Saturday morning, 9 to 10, or 10 to 11.
How did they vote?
By card only. And in my album that we have over here, lying here, showing all of them that went in, because the teenage album, which you don't have, let me see that just a minute, and I'll show you, give you an idea. Now these children now, I'm not used to this anymore. This gives you some idea, see, of the talent that came in. Whole bands, whole groups would come in, and over 1,000. And for 3 years then, I had a wonderful teen talent show, and they called me Mama Lawshe.
Oh. And that was about what year? Was that in the 40s?
It was in the 40s, yes, and early 50s.
And we were interested, you say you sort of remember Henry Field. He was around.
Yes, but I only saw him a couple of times. Frank Field was the one that we saw most, yes. Saw
And
him
Kate
nearly
Simmons
every day.
was probably,
He was with KFNF then.
yeah.
So then did you go to KMA as well?
No.
You didn't work?
No, I was never with KMA. We had Leanna Driftmeyer as a guest one time. She was chosen the Woman of the World, the month, whatever, at that time.
Well, the women, I want to know about the women on radio. Were there quite a few women who had programs down there when you were there?
No, I don't remember any women having programs on KFNF when I was there. Of course, Leanna was there, but she was with the other station. But
you had sort of the talk show.
I had the talk show and the teen talent show.
On your teen talent show, you had some pretty famous people, or at least they are famous now. Do you remember the Everly Brothers?
Oh, I should say so. Yes, indeed. They were darling.
What did they
just
do?
darling. Played, you know, that at that time. But then I can't remember right now. Just some of them have become famous since then. Now, for instance, Jack Merker. You know, see, Jack was my assistant MC director for the Teen Talent Show. And now he is with some big broadcasting company in Denver, I understand.
That's right.
So it might have helped some of them, you know, to want to be in the business.
Okay, I'm going to stop for a second. Okay, then you went into another business. And what was the second business?
Well, actually, I went into the travel business for myself because I got so busy I had to give up KFNF. So I had my travel agency here in Bellevue for about 12 years.
Shenandoah.
And, I mean, Shenandoah, yes. Bellevue is where we used to live before we live where we live now. So by having the travel agency, my own, then I was real fortunate here because the theater was no longer active. So I don't remember what the name of the theater was. Do you remember the name of the theater?
Not the Mayfair.
Right down here. Yeah, Mayfair. It was, I think, I'm not sure, but it was on Main Street. And the lobby was so beautiful and the ticket office was so lovely that it just made an ideal place for a travel agency. And of course, off the open, beautiful stairway was the lounge for anybody that wanted privacy. So I did that for about 12 years, and then we moved to Bellevue. Ed got transferred to Omaha, and Darlene and Jerry, our youngest daughter, and her husband were living there because he was out at Offutt Air Base. And we thought, okay, we'll build our home there because they're in about 3 years when they get transferred, why, then we'll move into Omaha. Well,
You're bumping your mic.
oh, touching the mic, okay. So we moved to Bellevue then, and we were there 25 years. But getting back to my travels, we visited, I took groups to every continent, all the 7 continents, and to most of the countries in those 7 continents, and took 2 groups around the world twice. And people say to me, what did Ed do at that time? And I said, well, every summer for a 30-day tour, I would plan a tour someplace that he didn't go, that he hadn't seen. And so he got to see the world the same as I did. The only thing he did not get to see was Africa. He missed Africa, and I was sorry about that. But it gave us a chance to see the world and get paid for it. Very little, but at least paid for seeing the world.
Well, now, Eleanor, there weren't that many people traveling back at that time.
I was the first person in this area, I suppose, to get to visit Hawaii. And and they were all older people because they're the ones that had the money. The younger folks couldn't afford to travel. Of course, that's different today. Many of them go to Hawaii just for a honeymoon, you know. But then I was in the travel business here, and then I was in the travel business for about 3 years in Bellevue. And then the executives from, United Airlines, they came out and asked me to be a travel agent for them. And I told you I couldn't even read a timetable. But where did I started to say something that I wanted about the travel business. Oh, they were amazed. They say that I was the first woman in the United States to have a travel agency for foreign tours only. And many of my groups that I took in overseas, the managers, proprietors, were shocked to see a woman as working. The men do all the work in those foreign countries. And when I'd go in with the ladies that had their veils, clear up to here, and there I was in my bare face, they were shocked, really. But they were wonderful to us, and every time that we left, a manager would run and give me a lovely gift in most cases. So we have many things in our home that were given to us from all over the world, besides the few things that we could afford to buy.
Tell us what you collected.
Dolls. I collected dolls. Many of the groups spent a great deal of money, but with me, I couldn't afford. I had my money tied up in the business, and so I loved dolls, and I tried to collect a doll every time I went into a new country. So I have 92 dolls, and each one of them is in the native costume, just like they wore in olden times, as they say. And I have given many programs with my dolls for churches and different types. Let's see, mother-daughter, especially banquets and things like that.
So, well, it was an interesting business. How did you get your clients? How did you
I was there again. I was fortunate. Mr. Williams let me talk about the tours every day. You see, I had the travel agency and the KFNF together for 2 years. And every day he'd let me talk about the tours that we were going on. And of course, having the theater with all of that space to advertise on the outside, that helped too, you see. So I was blessed.
Well, my mother remembers going on a tour with you, and she said Eleanor just went in and took over and got us the most wonderful accommodations and really knew how to do it.
Well, it was lots of fun, but it wasn't easy because the tour guide is responsible entirely for all of the suitcases, and they weighed 44 pounds apiece, and everybody took 2 if you had 25 people. 25 was my limit. except once I took 54 from around here to Hawaii. But being responsible for the suitcases that were heavy, it was hard, really. And people said to me, oh, I wish I could do what you do. Oh, I'd love to be able to do that. And I said, you could, but you wouldn't. It's too hard.
And who are some of the local people that you remember going on some of these,
Oh, there
on
are,
lots of those tours?
as I say, my memory isn't as good as it used to be. And I really, to be honest with you, of course, George and Mildred went, you know.
Yes.
There were-
That's how they got
I'd have
started
to stop
traveling.
and think.
Uh-huh.
Yes, that's how they got started. Yes. They went with me, and I'd have to stop and think. Oh, Mr. and Mrs., they have the jewelry store down here. They're not in it anymore. Lawson's.
Oh,
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I should have looked that up before I came, all of the people who
well,
went.
we'll get some pictures of some of those group tours.
All right,
and see
fine.
who-
Oh, yes, because I
Yeah.
have piles and piles of pictures.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I have slide programs with all the commentation for nearly all of the continents that we visited. Mhm.
Well, that you've had an interesting and unusual time.
It was a blessing. Honestly, it was a blessing. I said, it just sort of came to me. A lady came along to Bellevue, or to Shenandoah, and how she found me, I don't know, but she did, and asked me to be a Welcome Wagon hostess. And it was especially nice when Ed was president of the Chamber of Commerce here, because the day that President Truman and Margaret came, I got to be one of the hostesses. And so that was a wonderful experience for me, too. So there were a lot of things that happened, you know, that I wasn't responsible for, that were just blessings.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting that when you were in Hawaii, you got to be there when Hawaii became a state.
Yes, and the odd part about that was 10 of the group that were with me to Alaska when it became a state, that was just luck, we happened to be there at that time, were with me in Hawaii when it became a state. 10 of the same group.
Well, I think you had a faithful following. You had a lot of people who went again and again.
After the first tour, every tour had several on who had been with me before. And one little lady, Mrs. Turner, was from Florinda. She was just a little doll. Way up in years, too, believe me. Because that many years ago, I wasn't as old as I am now, you know. And she was the delight of the tour. And, of course, my aunt went with me on every tour that Ed couldn't go on, my mother's sister. She was my roommate, and she was only 19 years older than I. And we had a wonderful time, and she was a great help to me, too. But this little Mrs. Turner, if anybody complained about anything, she'd say, well, if you want the comforts of home, stay home.
Well, Eleanor, this has been wonderful. Do you have any comments about Shenandoah? Or any
Well, we
experience?
consider it home. Yes, we really do. Did you read in the Evening Sentinel just recently a little note from Ed
Yes.
where we said we'd taken the Sentinel for 25 years here, 25 years in Bellevue, and still in Omaha 2.5 years, because of course we live in a retirement home in Bellevue now, in the old Paxton Manor Hotel, which is a beautiful retirement home.
Hey, tell us how you got into the advertising of the Paxton Manor, because this is where people have seen you lately.
Well, I don't know. Mr. Rothenberg just came one day and said, with Ed too, I'd just love to have a picture of you two. See, to put into the paper, the World Herald. How did you happen to choose it? See, and I said, well, for one thing, we used to dance to Paul Morrow, who was there years and years and years ago, and I looked all over Omaha for where I thought would be the best place for us, and that's the reason that we chose the Paxton Manor, and we love it. We had the penthouse, so if you want to see the city from way up high, come and visit us, especially at night. It's a sight to behold. Council Bluffs, all of Council Bluffs is right at our windows. hmm We enjoy. We have 5 rooms up there and thoroughly enjoy it. And so this is a special invitation for everybody from Shenandoah to come and visit us.
You may get a terrible surprise.
I'd love it. The welcome mat is out.
You visited lots of museums as you went around the world. Tell us about some of them.
I'll tell you something, Rosalie. The museums, we saw museums all over the world, everywhere. Just because, you see, we visited all continents, many of the islands, too. And I have never seen a museum like this any place in the world. This one in Shenandoah is something else. As somebody says, oh, you feel that way because you're familiar with someone. No, that isn't the reason. It's just that this is an unusual setup. I don't know how in the world you ever did it. It's marvelous.
Thank you.
You know, if you want to donate your money to a wonderful project, this is it.
That's the way to go, Eleanor.
You bet. You bet.
Oh, thank you so much. This has just been wonderful, wonderful interview. And I'm so glad you were here today.
Well, thank you, Molly. I enjoyed being here and kind of reliving all of the things that we see in here and the people and you girls. And, of course, I have Darlene and Jerry with me today, you know, our youngest daughter. They live in Colorado Springs. And they come and visit us real often. And
I don't think you did mention what Ed did when you lived in Shenandoah. I think you moved here in 1935, and he came to run the Safeway.
He ran the Safeway store for 30. Well, when he first came, he had charge of the meat department, manager of the meat department. They soon made him manager of the store. And that was 25 years we were here.
Oh, yeah. I always thought Ed owned that store.
Did you, Molly? Yes. You were just a little girl then.
No, not that little.
Yes, you
That's
were.
when the Safeway was where the Sears building, and Sears store is now.
Yes, yes.
And he was here 25 years.
We did, yes. So we consider this home, really.
Well, you took part in lots of community affairs.
Many things, and I think that's the one. And the girls grew up here, Darlene and Donna, too, and got married here. You see, went through school here, then went off to college. And so Shenandoah we still consider home.
Well, there are lots of Shenandoah people who still consider you belonging here.
Well, we love them all. And as I say, the welcome mats, I would love to see some of the children in my album that have grown up now and have children of their own, no doubt. That would be wonderful. Just come and knock on the door.
Well, we'll be there.
You promise. Okay.
And thank you so much.
And thank you for allowing me to review my life here in Shenandoah.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Well,